I'm really trying to make it more than what it is, cause everybody dies, but not everybody lives.
That I could have this moment for life.
All right, thank you all for joining me for Conversations with Taz for the Monday Mix-Up. And we know there's a lot to get started with. Let's start with MTG.
Something very important in this tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now I need to focus on the first line. Democrats want civil war. Where did you see that? I haven't seen any Democrats calling for civil war myself. I haven't even seen anybody on the left on social media calling for civil war. That would be the right. That would be right-wing politicians. That would be right-wing media. So if something like that were to happen, I think we all know where the blame would lie. What group of people in this country have been radicalized to the point that they would start a civil war over one fucking con man?
Auntie Maxine had something to say about Jurassic Barbie's protest plans.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she's going to come to New York to protest the indictment.
Well, she certainly can go to New York to protest the indictment. It's not going to do any good. It's not going to stop it. I think that she's just gaining more publicity and more attention to herself. But he has been indicted, and there's nothing that she can do about it at this point. As a matter of fact, she has a reputation for being outrageous, someone that is not to be taken seriously. And so she'll just continue with that reputation by going to protest. But she cannot in any way interfere with justice at this point. Justice is on the move.
And let us not forget that earlier today, the mayor of New York City called out Marjorie Taylor Greene as well. Like, you can come, but we're not going to have an insurrection here. Paraphrasing. But that's not the only thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been involved in. For some odd reason, everybody continues to want to give her airplay, and she was on 60 Minutes. Let's take a look.
60 Minutes have just released a clip of their interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it is remarkable. The Congresswoman from Georgia goes after not the Democrats, but the Republicans. She name checks them, and she says they're the reason why she ran for office. When Leslie Stahl pushes her on why she doesn't blame the president at the time, Donald Trump, she stumbles all over herself.
For Congress, when I saw the Republicans in Congress, the House and the Senate, completely fail to deliver the agenda that we had all voted for, the reasons why we voted for Donald Trump. It was
the Republicans.
Yep.
Not Joe Biden, not Nancy Pelosi, but the traditional Republicans, who she says failed to rein in federal spending, repeal Obamacare, or fund President Trump's border wall when Republicans controlled both chambers of Congress.
They failed us.
Like who?
Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, those types of, Mitt Romney. I'm not even sure why he calls himself a Republican.
Why don't you blame Donald Trump?
Well, I blame all of them for a lot of things. But
not
again,
him.
well, the president doesn't control everything. Hey, how are ya?
Most of her constituents in her conservative, largely white, working-class district agree with her on the issues and especially like the way she fights for her beliefs. Democrats are a party of pedophiles.
I would definitely say so. They support grooming children.
They are not pedophiles. Why would you say that?
Democrats support, even Joe Biden, the president himself, supports children being sexualized and having transgender surgeries. Sexualizing children is what pedophiles do to children.
Wow. Okay.
Respect the rule of law in New York City. And although we have no specific threats, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is known to spread misinformation and hate speech, she stated she's coming to town. While you're in town, be on your best behavior. As always, we will not allow violence or vandalism of any kind. And if one is caught participating in any act of violence, they will be arrested and held accountable, no matter who you are.
So let me get this right. For Marjorie Taylor Greene, every other member of the GOP is responsible for their own actions as well as their supporters, but not Donald Trump. Although it has been widely confirmed that gender-affirming surgery cannot happen under the age of 18 and is highly expensive, and there are members of the trans community that opt to never have said surgery, she's saying that Democrats, specifically Joe Biden, are pushing that forward and sexualizing children. Did she forget that one of her political besties, Matt Gaetz, had his bestie, his confidant, indicted, convicted, and sentenced for underage sex trafficking? That Matt Gaetz himself narrowly avoided indictment and conviction for the same crimes. That we have gotten confirmation that Matt Gaetz was paying off underage girls, i.e., sexualizing them. There are a slew of politicians that have very young wives that they met when those wives were minors. Well. Now, we're going to get into the controversy of the week so far, but that's going to take a segment of its own. So don't worry, we're getting there. Right now, let's get into, I alluded to it last night, where police drove hundreds of miles to kill a young lady's goat. Wish I was joking, but I am not. ACAB.
On today's episode of What the Actual Fuck, police drive 500 miles to kill a little girl's pet goat. This one is absolutely heartbreaking. A young girl didn't want to slaughter the goat she had raised for 4-H. The state senator who bought the goat at auction agreed to let it live its days eating weeds. But sheriff's deputies drove 500 miles to kill the goat and teach the 9-year-old a lesson. The mom had purchased the goat for her daughter to enter into the 4-H program. Children are taught how to care for the animals, but then they are sold into an auction to be slaughtered. It's meant to teach the children about meat, however. This particular little girl had just lost 3 grandparents within the last year and had so much heartbreak in her family already. And when it came time to give up the goat, her daughter sobbed in the pen. So the mom took the goat back home with them because she had purchased this goat after all. She wrote a letter to the fair and asked them to make an exception for her and her daughter to keep the goat, whose name is Cedar. Instead, officials reached out to Shasta County Sheriff's Office. Armed with a search warrant, detectives drove more than 500 miles across Northern California in search of the goat. Echoing language used when law enforcement search a home for drugs, the warrant allowed deputies to utilize breaching equipment to force open doorways, exit doors, entry doors, locked containers, search all rooms, garages, and storage rooms and outbuildings of any kind that are large enough to accommodate a small goat. Cedar the goat was then taken and slaughtered. The fair had this to say: "Making exception for you will only teach our youth that they do not have to abide by the rules." But attorneys are pointing out that a child cannot be held to the same standard as an adult can, and when she wanted out, she had the right. Attorneys argue that the county used the warrant for the sole purpose of circumventing the civil process. They killed the goat as a way to end Long and her daughter's fight for Cedar. Their lawyer says, "The government was seeking to silence our client's viewpoint. Our lawsuit seeks to hold public officials accountable for violating law and enacting a personal vendetta against a little girl simply because she loved her goat." So yeah, good job, Shasta County Fair. You didn't just kill a little girl's pet goat. You killed her hope in humanity. Congratulations.
Can't clear cold case files. Can't keep it together under pressure, but can manage to teach a lesson to a grieving child by traumatizing her further. Way to go. I guess. Now let's go across the pond for a little bit. We haven't talked about them in a while. Let's catch up with the clout chasing queen consort, just about a month out ahead of the coronation of King Chucky.
Listen, I don't want to hear any one of you comment about Meghan Markle being a problematic narcissist. This chick not only took Princess Diana's life, like literally and figuratively, but now she's trying to use her power to create Nepo babies out of her grown-ass children. Girl, bye.
So who's the attention whore? Interesting. Now, we're going to come back across the pond, but it's still going to be royal news. And remember, Meghan Markle's sister, Samantha, who changed her last name back to Markle after Meghan became a princess, was trying to sue her sister, try to make some money real fast. Well, it didn't quite work out for her. And here's a breakdown of what the courts had to say.
We were all waiting for this order in the Meghan Markle, Samantha Markle case. I have it here, and there's actually some surprises. Let's take a look at it. As always, we're going straight to the source, the court's website, Samantha Markle versus Meghan Markle. And if you come down here, ordered, defendant's motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim is granted. But the case isn't over, and I'll explain why. So the court split the claims up into two buckets. It dismissed all claims based on the book Finding Freedom with prejudice. And then all the remaining claims are dismissed without prejudice. The remaining claims are all based on the Oprah Winfrey interview. Now, the with prejudice versus without prejudice is a very important distinction. When the court dismisses something with prejudice, it means you can never bring those claims again. But if your claims are dismissed without prejudice, it means you get the chance to try to bring them again. I'll post a part 2 now and talk about those specific claims and the attorney's fees request. The court is not happy with Samantha Markle's attorneys, and I'll show you what it said in the order. So the first bucket of claims, those based on the book Finding Freedom, were all dismissed because Meghan Markle did not actually publish that book. It was an unauthorized biography, and in order to be sued for defamation, you have to make the statement yourself. Now let's talk about the CBS interview with Oprah Winfrey. Samantha is saying that Meghan Markle lied 3 times during that interview. When she said she was an only child, when she said she never sees Samantha, and when she said Samantha changed her name to Markle to cash in on her fame. But the court says most of those statements aren't actually in the transcript. So what's going on here? As for being an only child, the court says she was just expressing an opinion about her childhood. As for never seeing Samantha, the court says the statement is not in the transcript and was not said. And as to changing her name, the court says that is explicitly contradicted by the transcript. Okay, this is worth a part 3. So what's the brass tacks with this Meghan Markle, Samantha Markle case? What's happening next? Here's your answer. The court gave Samantha Markle 14 days to file another amended complaint. Now, those amended claims can only be based on the Oprah Winfrey interview. But what about attorney's fees? So the court denied Meghan Markle's request for attorney's fees, but it did so without prejudice because it said they were premature. The court is giving Samantha Markle one last shot here. And if she fails, she's probably going to have to pay Meghan Markle's attorney's fees because the court already said you misrepresented the transcript and I don't see any merit to these remaining claims. If I were Samantha Markle's attorneys, I would say we need to negotiate a walk away. You tell your half-sister, I'm not going to file this new complaint and you don't request attorney's fees from me. Nobody owes anybody anything. But that would require people to be reasonable.
Also, keep in mind, Samantha was able to garner these attorneys on contingency. So they may be doing all of this work for free, for nothing, for nada. She does not have the money. Now, there are so many cases, but this particular case reminds me of one from when I was in college. It was a theory of law class. And it was a Jerry Falwell case. And I just kept wondering, like, when he walked into that attorney's office, why did this attorney take this case? It has no merit. It has no legs. Then to find out that it was seen in front of a judge, like, why? Why did this go as far as it did? That is my question with the Markle versus Markle case. Samantha Markle's case has no legs. It's an obvious cash grab, well, an attempt at one, and it's going to fail. If you believe that everything that is printed comes from the lips of Meghan Markle, why are you not suing her over the tabloids? Oh, that's right. Samantha loves to talk to the tabloids and spin narratives to get paid by the tabloids to further sensationalize and put forth emotional damage towards her half-sister, who she's very much so older than. So Meghan stating several other times that she felt like she grew up as an only child. Primary custody was given to her Black mother. And these are siblings that are old. And I know people in middle school. There was a young lady I was friends with. The closest sibling to her age were not far from my parents' age. I know another person. Actually, I have an aunt uncle that used to hang out with my parents. And this aunt uncle were my granny, my mother's brother and sister-in-law. Like, there can be age gaps. Everybody may not be in the house at the same time. You can be a sibling and not necessarily grow up together. Co-parenting exists and has existed for a while now. But I guess, y'all, Now we know, unfortunately, there was yet another school shooting. And I found out today that somebody was on a college campus, armed to the teeth with weaponry, but fortunately was stopped. Now, children that are still in school have had enough. They're like, if our parents have tried to protect us, those that aren't fighting more for their Second Amendment rights, which has to do with the militia, but I digress, than them. And then the parents that are trying to fight for their children are being ignored by politicians. Predominantly. There are some good politicians out there that are trying to fight the good fight. So they have taken to the streets. They've taken to the capitals to protest. And in Tennessee, they are trying to remove Democrats who are standing alongside protecting schools and children from gun violence. Take a look.
There is an emergency crisis of democracy happening in the state of Tennessee right now. In the wake of the death of 6 people at the Covenant School in Tennessee, thousands of student protesters have flooded the Capitol, holding protests demanding gun control and safer schools. The protests have been entirely peaceful with no reported injuries. And again, this is one of the largest student-led protests in our recent history. And the House Speaker of Tennessee's legislature has now equated this protest asking for safe schools with the January 6th insurrection. Major supporters of this protest are 3 democratically elected representatives from Nashville, Memphis, and Knoxville. And here's what happened to them today.
So what's going on here in Tennessee today? So 3 of us lawmakers who stood with our constituents demanding that they take action, and here the thousands of people gathered on Thursday talking about the crisis of mass shootings. We've been kicked off our committees as representatives elected by our constituents. Each of us represents 78,000 people, and our people are being silenced because they're kicking us off committees. They're threatening to take a vote to expel us today. Our member ID badges have been shut off. Our representative ID badges have been shut off. And this is not what democracy looks like. You know, we are elected to serve our constituents, and I'm the youngest Democratic lawmaker here, the most diverse district, and by shutting me down, they're shutting down the voice of my constituents. So this is one of my constituents, Ms. Brooks, and so whose family was hit, and you know, a victim of the Walk House mass shooting, and so we're here to speak for them. And they won't even let us speak for our people. They wouldn't let us talk on the floor. They shut our microphones off. They shut our voting machines off. We couldn't even talk about the issue. And so when we went to the well to force the issue, they called us insurrectionists and are now trying to expel us from the legislature.
This is the United States in 2023. Nope, this is not Nazi Germany. This isn't rule under Stalin or Lenin. This is the United States in 2023. But I thought it was pro-life, protect the children. It's not. It's protect the profits from the NRA, protect the profitability margins from lobbyists, protect the voting, that national popularity contest. Because it's more important to impress those that want to cosplay military man than ensure that we have a next generation. We are going to Mad Max ourselves out of existence or Mad Max ourselves into being a third world country. Like I said before, after the ad, we'll get into the controversy of the week. But Trump has landed in New York, so we got to get into the Trump legal news. And boy, is there a lot. So get comfy, turn up your volume, get you a beverage, get you a snack, and let's get into it. And when this is done, as you know, I got my handy dandy notebook. We're going to get into some other details of what's going on with the Tangerine Tyrant.
Trump attorney Tim Parlatore just completely sold out Trump's other attorney, Joe Tacopina, live on CNN. Watch this.
Do you think that Joe Tacopina is the right person to take this case to trial for your client, Trump?
Well, I know that Susan Eccles is a phenomenal attorney who's working on all the legal aspects of this. As to who's going to try the case, I know that Joe has certain potential conflict issues given his prior contacts with Stormy Daniels. So, who is the right attorney to take it to trial is something that the client will have to decide. Ultimately, the decision of who to stand next to you before a jury is a decision that only the client can make.
It sounds like you don't think that Joe Tacopina can. You think he has a conflict of interest here and will ultimately be the person representing Trump in this case?
I'm not going to comment on Joe Tacopina.
Oh, okay.
Previous contact with Stormy Daniels. Yeah, just make it known right now. Do you want to represent Trump in this case? Because I wouldn't. Well, let's keep it going.
Sorry, I have the confused. Did I just hear Cy Vance go onto national TVs and Beyonce's internet and say that Bill Barr, the Attorney General, told him to quash the case that Braggs is now bringing? Like in 2018, 2019, Cy Vance was told by Bill Barr, the Attorney General, to not go after Trump. And then the report that Cy Vance released, Bill Barr altered it. Is that what I'm hearing? The fuck?
A gag order against Trump and up to 30 days in jail if he violates it. That's what Trump's lawyers are expecting, maybe as early as today. No social media, no comments to reporters, no televised speeches after the indictment. This is according to a dicey British tabloid, but everybody from the former Manhattan District Attorney to Roger Stone thinks it is both possible and appropriate. Meanwhile, maybe they should take 2 sets of mugshots tomorrow as special counsel Jack Smith edges closer to a case against Trump for conspiracy to obstruct justice. All because Trump made his assistant send out his emails on her account. Plus, CBS and 60 Minutes completely fold in a disastrous Leslie Stahl interview that could have ended the career of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Leslie just made a face. All that and more on the Monday Countdown podcast, available now wherever you podcast.
So in private and in response to getting indicted in New York, Donald Trump has told advisors and associates that he's prepared to escalate attacks on the Manhattan DA now that he's been formally charged, and remarked in a private moment that it's time to politically F 'em up. You know what's a really bad strategy if you've just been indicted? Attacking the prosecutor who's indicting you. And not only has he gone after the DA, but he's also attacked the judge that's been assigned to his case. I don't think that Trump understands that this is law and not politics. In politics, you're encouraged to criticize your opponent and highlight differences. But in law, going after the prosecutor and judge is such a terrible idea. Like, it only makes it worse for him. I just don't think he realizes that.
The Washington Post yesterday reporting this, that federal investigators have, quote, amassed fresh evidence pointing to possible obstruction by former President Trump. Here's what the Post is reporting, that investigators now suspect that boxes of classified documents were moved from a storage area at Mar-a-Lago. This is after, and this matters, the timing, after the DOJ served a subpoena to recover those documents from Florida, and that Trump personally, investigators believe, examined at least some of those boxes, again, after the subpoena. Trump's team only returned some documents with classified markings. An FBI search at Mar-a-Lago would later find more than 100 classified items that were not turned over, including top secret documents. The Post reports investigators have obtained emails and text messages of a former Trump staffer, and they give a detailed understanding of what was happening during those months at Mar-a-Lago.
Now, let's get into some additional notes. Okay, so right now it's unclear if the judge is going to allow cameras of any kind, within the courtroom. Now, it is being stated that the defense does not want cameras in the courtroom because they feel that Trump will be prejudiced due to the coverage. Now, there is no law within New York saying that cameras have to be in, the cameras have to be excluded. This is completely up to the discretion of the judge. And from what I've researched on this judge, he is very even keel, and he will do what is best for the case to make sure that it's fair to all sides involved and all of the necessary proper evidence is presented so a proper judgment can be made. It is also being highly speculated that the judge could impose a gag order. Now, we know Trump holds water about as well as a colander. Not at all. So this is a high likelihood. Now, this would prohibit social media posts, interviews, speeches, press conferences related to the case. The ACLU and the media would not like this at all, which is understandable. And it could further lies being put out by Trump and his sycophants in order to rile up the base. Now, bystanders that are outside the court must stay 100 feet from the courthouse, and this is a New York ordinance. This was previously challenged by the ACLU, and the ordinance stands true. You have to stay 100 feet back. I know they talked about the previous DA. We're going to get to them in a minute. Now, real quick regarding the Georgia case, it is being heavily rumored, keep that in mind, rumored that an indictment could occur this Wednesday. So yes, the day after he's processed in New York. Now, as far as the DOJ documents case, it is stated that people are being questioned as to what, if any, classified documents Trump has shown them. Now, going back to the New York hush money case, sorry, I'll be going back and forth because the news was popping up in different ways today. The former district attorney, Cy Vance, stated that he was told by the feds to stand down regarding the Stormy Daniels case, the hush money case. Now, regarding this case, remember I told you there were other cases where Trump was just an unindicted co-conspirator. Because there are two people currently that have been indicted. One is out of custody. One is currently still in custody. And we know about Michael Cohen and then this former CFO, Weisselberg, who was convicted on tax fraud and falsifying records. And the Trump organization as a whole was also found guilty in this case. So regarding the evidence that could plausibly be put forward in this hush money case, especially since it's also being speculated that there's another person who was paid off that may be involved in all of this, and that is maybe evidence against Trump. They've already been convicted, so it's not looking like he can skate around it. Now, back to the DOJ docs case. There's more evidence that this looking like that they got. So there's security camera footage that shows the illegal movement of the documents in question. Boxes were moved from a Mar-a-Lago storage area after the subpoena was sent and received by Trump and his team. Post subpoena, Trump went through to remove what he wanted to keep. Evidence also indicates that Trump told people to intentionally mislead government officials. And let's not forget, just last week on Fox Entertainment News, Sean Hannity tried to give Trump some really softball questions to try to exonerate himself, and Trump doubled down and admitted, yes, he took the files, yes, he went through the files and it went through the boxes. When Trump left Florida today, which takes credence out of all the posturing that Ron DeSantis was doing, I told y'all that was just for the voter base. Traveling along with him were his top campaign advisors. So is he going to try to write this trip off, or is he just not taking it seriously, or is he just trying to distract himself from completely freaking out regarding what's coming down the line for him? Who knows? But I could tell you, if I was facing an indictment and then the possibility of 2 more indictments not too far away, I really wouldn't be worried about a campaign. But we know that's why he revealed so early that he was going to be campaigning for POTUS in 2024. Now, to get ready for the big story of the week so far, we're going to go through with the ad, and then when we come back, we're going to get into it. So I'll see you in 2 and 2.
They got you focused on Donald Trump getting indicted while a judge is saying that insurers don't have to provide preventative care anymore. And this includes cancer, heart screenings, pap smears, all of these things that people need. No longer protect.
Yeah, while we've been distracted, pre-existing conditions, yeah, getting tested for those may not be covered anymore. Yay us. But let's deep dive into it. First of all, congratulations to the most outstanding player of the game last night, Miss Angel Reese. And y'all on Instagram, stop trying to be nasty and slide into DMs because y'all are accidentally sliding into her mother's DMs. But anywho, and congrats to LSU on gaining their first national championship. Now let's get into what's ruffled a bunch of white people's feathers on the internet. Let's go.
So how is this a classless act, but this isn't? I didn't see, and I searched and searched for you to comment on Caitlyn giving the "you can't see me" gesture. Couldn't find anything. But today, this is a classless act? Make it make sense, Jose. Now you're more fluent.
All year, I was critiqued about who I was. The narrative, I don't fit the narrative. I don't fit in the box that y'all want me to be in. I'm too hood, I'm too ghetto. Y'all told me that all year. But when other people do it, y'all don't say nothing. So this was for the girls that look like me, that's going to speak up on what they believe in. It's unapologetically you.
There are several people today pretending to be very upset that Angel Reese, the phenomenal basketball player for the LSU Women's National Championship basketball team, made a couple of gestures. She did the face gesture and she did a "I'm getting the championship ring" gesture in front of Caitlin Clark, the outstanding player from Iowa. The thing about it is, if you look in the past in this tournament, Caitlin Clark had done that to other players as well. And there's a tradition and history in competitive basketball of people doing hand gestures when they're excited. Behind me, of course, is examples of several players doing the three goggles after they've made a three-point shot. Even Keith Olbermann took a shot, and even Keith Olbermann is wrong. There's nothing classless about celebrating a victory at this level. She is a competitive champion, and just like other competitive champions, she has the right to celebrate.
Last night is that while Angel Reese is doing it towards the end of the game, we have a certain section of people that then want to come out and call people like Angel Reese, who is 20 years old. Now think about this. The narrative that's been following this team all year long, right, has been they're ghetto, they're thugs. Think about what you heard Dawn Staley talk about the other day. She literally made a comment about it. It went viral. We're not, head coach of South Carolina, okay, after the loss. We're not bar fighters. We're not thugs. We're not monkeys. We're not street fighters. And today I'm pissed off because instead of congratulating and celebrating LSU, we're talking about elements of race and double standards. So when Caitlin Clark is doing all this, she has swag. She's a competitor. She's lost in the juices. This is what we love. But when Angel Reese does it, and was it maybe a tad bit excessive? Could she have been called a T? Sure, if the refs wanted to call her a T at the end of the game for trash talking because she fouled Caitlin Clark around. But these are the same things that motivates young people in sports. And we applaud it in other directions, but now we want to apply race towards it, or we want to apply, look at her, she's a classless piece of. That's what Dave Portnoy said. I'm putting names on it. Keith Olbermann called her a blanking idiot on Twitter. What are we doing? Why are we taking it to that level? If you want to criticize it and say call a tech, fine. I'm okay with that. At least you're having some kind of informed opinion on it. But now we're name calling. Now we're questioning people's character off winning a chance. That just really, I'm not going to allow that to happen on our show and also nationally. CC trash talking is part of the game. It's what inspires us, and it's okay for kids who are 20 years old to get, or young adults, if you want to call them young adults, to get lost in the sauce on that.
Racist taunting of Caitlin Clark.
I have no problem whatsoever. Skip, I want to preface everything that I say. Caitlin Clark was sensational. She should have been a unanimous Player of the Year. Nobody should have got any votes. If you look at the way she played all year, and if she solidified that, she answered all the questions, she checked all the boxes in the tournament, she should have been a Player of the Year. So, young lady, what you did, how you represented the game of women's college basketball, you should be commended. So I don't want you to take anything that I'm about to say personal, because this is not about you.
That's fair. I agree. Go ahead.
This is about the portrayal of how women, we see it two different ways. 48 hours ago, when Caitlin Clark did this, John Cena, it was considered swag. 48 hours later, Angel Reese does the exact same gesture. Is classless. Keith Olbermann went as far as to say she was an idiot. For you to stoop so low to call a college kid, a female, because she did a gesture, when you didn't say anything when Caitlin Clark did it. It's funny how, Skip, it's funny how America, society sees black and white. White person does the exact same gesture. Skip, you know one of the greatest talkers in NBA history, you covered the guy, was Larry Bird. He was never criticized. One of the greatest talkers in NFL football is who? Phillip Rivers. He was never criticized. Angel Reese talked about this all year. Skip, if you remember 48 hours earlier, Don Staley foretold of this. Many chalked it up as being sour grapes because she had lost. And lo and behold, everything that she spoke of came to fruition the moment Angel Reese did that gesture. The moment she did this and the moment she started pointing at her finger talking about she's about to get a ring, Twitter went, it started trending and it went into a haywire. And I was just there to read the comments. I didn't want to see the comments. I'm like, really? I'm like, one of our own, Danny Cannell, that used to work here, told me it was classless. Who? Danny Cannell.
Oh, Danny Cannell.
Yeah. Okay. Skip, I'm like, hold on. So I went back and see, did he say anything about Caitlin Clark? Was it classless when she did it? No, nothing. Everybody loved it. Skip, a lot of these women in college basketball, a lot of the black athletes, they have their hair they have their lashes on, they have their nails done. A lot of them are tatted up. Some of them had dreads. So they don't project the role. And like she said, I don't fit your image. I don't fit the box that you want me to fit in. And I'm cool with that. Angel Reese is what we call, she said unapologetically me, she meant unapologetically black.
Yes.
And she was talking about the little black girl. Don't you feel some type of way? You represent who you are. You stand proud and you stand on what you believe in. Skip, this was a great game. And unfortunately, Skip, we're not really talking about the demolition job that they did.
It was a great game for LSU.
Yes. Skip it. I mean, it got close there. Caitlin Clark came out and hit a couple of threes.
Did you ever really?
No. They had spent their wad Friday night beating South Carolina.
They did.
But Skip, I mean, how do we? It's so obvious what this is. Skip, this is not about anything else other than race. And I wish we didn't have to talk about it. I wish you and I could come out here and talk about what a great game. And Kim Mulkey, she did an unbelievable job. In only her second year. She put LSU, they're a power now. People got to respect this women's college basketball program. She's one of the 2 or 3 greatest coaches, probably Gino, Coach Pat Summit. Now you got to go Kim Mulkey as the 3rd greatest college female basketball coach in history.
I'll buy that.
And but what we're talking about, because right down the middle, we see 2 different gestures. And one is a celebration. It's celebrated as, it's celebrated. The other is condemned. And why? Only because a black did the exact same gesture that a white female did 48 hours earlier. Skip, now don't forget now, you know, Caitlin Clark been talking that ish. You remember her and the Louisville player got into it. Ain't nobody know that's swag. Ooh, Caitlin Clark, she liked that. That's the Mamba mentality. Everybody was loving it.
You're down 15, shut up.
Angel Reese can't say nothing. Angel Reese do that. Why are you doing that? You're not in the NBA this night. Yada, yada, yada. They have so much negativity to say. Is that our expression, we've always been very expressive. Jack Johnson started this. Jack Johnson started this in 1900, Skip, when he would beat their white heavyweight champions, and they hated it. And they came up with these Trump charges to get him. They really despised Muhammad Ali, Skip, because he was a lyricist with this. So I'm sorry that we're here. I'm sorry that I cannot give LSU the due respect that they deserve. Their women.
You can, though. You are.
I want to so bad, Skip, but it overshadowed. Skip, that thing, when Angel Reese said that, Skip, that thing got 20, 30 million views. I'm like, what? All because she did this, all because she pointed to a ring? It's trash talk. It's a part of the game. But white trash talk and black trash talk, Skip, is viewed entirely different, and we know why.
Racism in America looks like a white basketball player named Caitlin Clark getting a shit ton of coverage, which she deserved for balling out, right? While she's balling out, she's showing a little trash talk, right? Hitting her opponents with the "you can't see me," or waving off shooters from the three-point line saying, "I don't gotta guard you," and stuff like that, which is trash talk, right? But a lot of media was either silent about that or even praised her, right? Talking about her edge, talking about her fire, talking about how cold she is, right? But then in the national championship when they're losing, and a black player, Angel Reese, does the same exact shit, right? Hits her with the "you can't see me" as time's running out, holds up her ring finger, right? Because they're about to win the national championship and get their rings for that, right? Then all of a sudden, the same media that was quiet or even praising Caitlin Clark is talking about how classless this is, how they were mocking her, how they were taunting her, how it's disrespectful, poor taste, bad sportsmanship. But wait a second. When it was the white player, you were praising it or had no issue with it. But now that it's the black player, you don't like it and it's problematic. That's definitely not fucking racism.
It's not about race. It's not about race. Hold on a second.
Just got done watching the women's basketball final for college hoops.
Did you now?
And there was a disrespectful act done by an LSU player to Caitlin Clark of Iowa.
Oh my, what is possible?
Angel Reese knows a ring is coming. Now this is classless. We do not want to teach this at all for young athletes.
Oh wait, we don't?
As Caitlin Clark, yes, may have been cocky and may have done things to the other team in previous occasions.
Previous
but
occasions
does
like
not
2
be
days
called
ago.
for after a win is done, that you go over to the opponent that dropped a massive amount of points on you and come at them and taunt them.
Oh.
Disrespectful and a classless act by LSU here.
Disrespectful and classless. But wait a second.
We love to see a good clapback, right? And no one does that better than Caitlin Clark. I mean, just a couple of days ago in her game against Louisville, she basically told Haley Van Lith, "You're down 15 points. Shut up." We're going to go talk to some of her teammates to see what are some of their best Caitlin clapbacks or best motivations.
Let's see.
Let's find out. The last game when she was like, "You can't see me."
Oh.
That really got everyone fired up. But she gets an and munch to like go like this and come to the bench and she'd be like, "Let's go." That's really fun. She gets pretty fiery in our timeouts. You know, she might even clap back at us because she wants us to play with that same fire, you know, and sometimes we're pretty even keeled, some of us.
There's that word again.
She's like, "Let's go, come on, right on the board," whatever it may be. She always will just come to me like after a timeout, before like a tough stretch, we think, and she'll just like give me a little bit of extra reassurance. Honestly, I think the last Elite Eight game, I loved she did the John Cena thing. I think that was so cool.
So it's cool when Caitlin does it and she gets a whole segment on ESPN about it. But it's a problem when Angel does it and she gets called disrespectful and unsportsmanlike, yeah? But hold on, let me let Angel talk.
But when other people do it, y'all don't say nothing.
Oh no, baby girl, they say something. They say, "Good job, Caitlin," and she fires up the team. But go ahead, I'm gonna let you finish.
Y'all don't say nothing. So this is for the girls that look like me, that's gonna speak up on what they believe in.
That's right, baby.
It's unapologetically you. And that's what I did it for tonight. This was for the more than, it was bigger than me tonight. It was bigger than me. Twitter is gonna go in a rage every time. And I mean, I'm happy. I feel like I helped grow women's basketball this year. I'm super happy and excited. So I'm looking forward to celebrating in the next season.
Boom. Baby, when I tell you I love Gen Z, I love Gen Z because they are not afraid. They are not afraid to speak the truth. They're not afraid to speak the truth in public. And they might be our only hope left to keep us from turning into this Christo-fascist hellscape that these old white people are trying to turn America into. But hold on, one more thing. Here's the truth of it, white people. You constantly and consistently move the goalposts to accommodate your mediocrity. Y'all were all about trash talking when Caitlin and the majority white team of Iowa was on top. But as soon as black girls get out there and sun you and let you know for a fact you cannot see us in this sport, you get in your feelings. When y'all disabuse yourselves of the lie of white supremacy, we'll all be better for it. Trust me. When Caitlin was on top, trash talk was fine and worthy of a highlighted segment on ESPN. When Angel was on top, trash talk is unsportsmanlike. Please fix yourselves because the hypocrisy is exhausting. At the end of the day, I wish you all would just say what you mean and mean what you say. Because writing all these think pieces on sportsmanlike conduct and tying yourself in knots using circular logic to justify your hypocrisy is ridiculous. Just say you think Angel Reese is a uppity.
First of all, 10 toes down. I stand with Angel. Second, I watched the game. After that, I watched social media from last night till today. Between people bombarding Angel's social media platforms in the comment section to talk about how many points Caitlin scored. Doesn't matter. LSU still won. Wanting to keep telling Angel that she was ghetto, that she was classless, that she was a fucking idiot. And then people coming to say, oh, well, Caitlin's not worried about it. She played with boys. She's used to it. This is not a boy. This is not a man. Let's not make those comparisons. And then the most egregious was an ESPN comment section on social media. The final score, hold on, I don't want to misquote the final score. Let me see real quick. Wait, what is it? Okay, there we go. Score 102-85. LSU won. People were saying, oh, the refs took the game from Iowa. The refs were. And during the game on social media, there were so many people. LSU's, they're playing too rough. Now, as a former athlete and a former coach, coaching little girls, I remember parents, you're too rough on them. You need to. Okay, they have to do calisthenics like everybody else so that they're not injured during the commission of this sport. I'm not going to be like, oh, Susie, let's. No. See, there's a double standard. See, nothing can take away the femininity of Caitlin. And in the eyes of the United States, nothing can give femininity to Angel. That's the mentality that you walk around with. But I do want to say this. White women that are out here puffing your chest out like, oh yeah, white men will come together to protect white women. Yeah. Caitlin is only a damsel right now and worthy of protection from racist white men that are also misogynistic because she's black. Because she is black. Keep that in mind. See, they're not out here willy-nilly trying to protect you. They're not even trying to protect the children that you all create together. They're protecting, taking over your bodily autonomy and using children as target practice than anything else. They're only going to come through and protect you when it comes to the big black woman, the big bad black woman, because they want you to be comfortable in mediocrity. Because if you were comfortable in mediocrity, you won't pose a threat to them either. If it's okay for you to gain success and notoriety with very little effort, you will get comfortable in putting forth very little effort. You catch what I'm putting down? Now, if you want more of my thoughts of that, as always, check the links in the description of the video. And there's an entire blog about it, of course. But see, this right here is a perfect example of when I tell people that there are different Americas for different people. And there's not the same standard for all women. So when you're like, well, it's all women, we should unite. It's not just, yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And this is also why we say it's all white women until it's no white women. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all tomorrow for Talk About It Tuesday. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. But let me leave you with this update regarding the Afghanistan Marine adoption.
Okay, do you guys remember last year I brought you a story that my friend told me about? It was a Marine in Afghanistan and he kidnapped an Afghan baby. He went to the United States judge and said because he was a Christian, he was going to take this Afghan baby. And the judge granted him adoption, even though the family was there. The closest living relatives of that baby were alive and well and were willing to take the baby. But he said the baby was abandoned by terrorists, so the judge granted him adoption. He literally kidnapped an Afghan fucking baby. Remember I told you about that? Yeah, the judge annulled the adoption. The judge annulled it. He literally used the U.S. courts and Christianity to kidnap an Afghan baby. Christian nationalism. Fucking A.